Hey guys, it's Vas here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to my review of the Hobby King Rattler. Now the Rattler is a 1/8 scale 4-wheel drive brushless buggy that runs a 540 style motor, which is actually a 2700 kV. It measures 36mm in diameter by 50mm length and it runs on a 40 amp ESC. So how can a 1/8 scale buggy run 1/10 scale electrics either on 2S or 3S? Well, the buggy itself is actually very light. It uses a plastic chassis. It doesn't have the standard 17mm hexes that you'd find on traditional 1/8 scale buggies, and it doesn't use standard 1/8 scale buggy wheels and tires. In fact, it uses these stadium truck style tires that use 12mm hexes. This means that you can swap out your tires with rear tires from a Rustler or a Firestorm or any sort of truck of that nature. For suspension, the buggy uses 12mm aluminium threaded body shocks, although they do have plastic eyelids. Camber can be adjusted both front and rear via the pillow bowl suspension setup that it has. It has adjustable toe at the front, but it does use a solid plastic link at the rear. Buggy also has plastic shock towers front and rear, and it doesn't have a center diff or slipper clutch, which makes for a very unique driving experience. Okay, so the Rattler, is it worth the money? Is it worth the $200 odd Australian that is currently the price at the Hobby King website from the local warehouse? Let's find out. I'm going to go through a couple of things here. I think some of you may be surprised, some of you may actually be a little bit disappointed. I'm not entirely sure, we'll see. But overall, I have to say I'm actually pretty impressed with this thing. I think this is a great entry-level buggy for those of you out there who want something a little bit bigger than your standard 1/10 scale. They want to try something, you know, 1/8 scale, but don't want the big running costs, you know, of having to buy two 2S packs or a big 4S pack, or even going to a 5S or 6S and, you know, having to buy multiple batteries just to run the buggy. This guy here runs either on a 2S or a 3S, which I think is fantastic and keeps the running costs low. So you don't have to go out there and spend you know, big dollars on batteries and get the best of the best batteries just to run this thing. You know, you spend maybe $30 or $40 per pack and you should be good to go. I think that really offers a very good entry-level buggy for somebody that wants to sort of have a bit of a muck around with something that's a bit bigger than the 10 scale. Now, as I said, I haven't had too many issues with this car. I've actually been pretty impressed with it, and I'm just going to go through a few things here with the scoring system. We'll try and get through this review as quickly as I can, because I know that I always say this at the beginning of every review and it ends up being, you know, 15 plus minutes. So let's see if we can keep this one fairly short. Moving on to the electrics. Now the electrics here, we're going to cover motor, ESC, steering servo, and just the overall speed of the buggy as it comes out of the box. For this particular category, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. I've actually been very impressed with the overall speed, the motor and the ESC. I think it delivers very well, given the size of the car that it is. I think it's very respectable. It did very good speeds, especially on 3S. This guy really gets up on boogies. I think I did about 70 kilometers on 3S, which is fantastic for a car that costs less than $200. And you know, it comes like that out of the box. You don't have to do anything special to it. So pretty impressive speeds. The only thing that I'm going to knock on this car is going to be the ESC, perhaps even more specifically the way that the ESC is mounted, which is inside this this little box here. It's kind of in here with the steering servo, and it just gets a little bit warm, and I've had it shut down on me a couple of times, and I've even tried to run it with the box off, and even then it still managed to shut down on me after a bit of a hard time. So the ESC is probably the only thing that's letting this car down a bit. I think 40 amps, which is what the ESC is rated at, is probably a bit small. It probably needs to come up to maybe a 60, maybe even an 80 amp, just to keep things a little bit cool. And I think maybe then the buggy might actually hold on 3S without having any sort of thermal shutdowns. Either that, or they need to redesign this box in some way just to allow a little bit more ventilation to go into it. But aside from that, I really have no complaints on the speed or the electrics of this car. Didn't have anything fail on me. I've put several battery packs through it since. I even lent it to my friend Paul, who took it away and let his kids use it, and he used it for a whole weekend, and it came back in one piece, thankfully. And yeah, everything was fine. So aside from the ESC shutting down once in a while. So for the electrics, I think it's a very fair score to give this one a 4 out of 5. Now moving on to drivetrain. Drivetrain, again, I haven't had any problems with this one. I gave this a 4 out of 5 as well. Probably the only thing that I'm sort of a little bit worried about is just the front and rear diffs. Because there is no slipper clutch in here and there's also no center diff, I'm kind of taking a point away purely because, not because I've had anything fail as such or I've had any issues, it's just that I'm worried about the longevity of these diffs, given that there's no give here. Once you punch the throttle, you know, you got drive front and rear, and there's really no slip. So these front rear diffs are doing a lot of work between the left and right wheels, but there's really nothing to transfer the power between the front and rear. So I'm just a little bit worried about how this is going to go long term. So far they've been holding okay, but you know, who knows, 6 months from now, maybe another half a dozen packs, you know, I could be rebuilding my diffs and ordering some new parts. I don't know. So it's a 4 out of 5. I deduct a point just as a precaution, because I don't want to give it full marks and then have, you know, people complain to me saying that their diffs have failed, you know, after a couple of dozen packs or something like that, or they've put grippier tires on there, which of course is going to put a little bit more stress on these components. So that's why I've given this one a 4 out of 5. Now for handling, I'm actually going to give this one a 3 out of 5. I think it's not the best handling car purely because these tires are kind of limiting where you actually get some grip. The best place I found to get grip on this was short grass or even some loose dirt. But on the gravel, they kind of struggled a little bit and they were completely useless on the road. So, you know, they do slip a lot. And they're very unique, well not unique, but they're kind of, you know, the old sort of 90s style buggies that you used to get from Tamiya and Kyosho and those sorts of brands. As a matter of fact, I believe this car is actually based on a Kyosho buggy. A lot of people have pointed that out to me. Can't quite remember what model it is, but you know, that may actually come in handy later on when I talk about part support. So, you know, it has this sort of retro look with these tires, but they do limit the grip. Now, the good thing is because it uses 12mm hexes, and these are just, I believe they're a standard 2.2 inch wheel, you can use kind of your standard stadium truck tires and wheels that you can get out of the back of a Rustler or a Firestorm or any other type of car like that, perhaps even the Armour Vortex. You may be able to get tires that fit straight on. I know that HPI and Proline have got wheels and tires that would actually bolt straight on here, and you actually probably will get a little bit more grip out of them and have something that's a bit more pliable across a variety of different terrains. So that's one point. The other thing is just these shocks. They're a little bit weak, they're a bit flimsy. I did have to rebuild them. As a matter of fact, actually Paul rebuilt them for me, so we did have to sort of rebuild them because they really started to sort of leak and sort of sweat out a lot of oil, and you do have to go with some fairly thick oil in here as well because the holes on the pistons are actually quite big. But aside from that, you know, the shocks have actually been holding up pretty well. It's just the overall handling characteristics out of the box was a little bit, you know, it wasn't quite right. So for that reason, you know, and yeah, just the tires, I give it a 3 out of 5. Now moving on to durability, I'm going to give this one full marks because I actually took this buggy where I take all my 1/8 scale buggies, my true 1/8 scale buggies, much like the Armour Typhon that you see behind me here, and this thing kept up with them. I didn't have it fall apart on me and have things break. I was expecting at some point that I was going to push it just a little bit too far, I was going to go a bit too high or jump too hard or have a bit of an awkward landing and something was going to give, but it kept on surprising me and it kept coming back for more. So for that reason, I'm going to give it full marks. And to be honest, even if it had broken something or something had popped out, I probably would still give it full marks because for the price that it is and the type of car that it is, to be able to keep up with something like that as far as where I took it and the jumps that I took with it, you know, it gets a lot of respect from me. So I'm pretty impressed with that. So for durability, definitely a 5 out of 5 here. Now, maintenance. You can see the car is very cleanly laid out. There's really not much to it. It's a very simple design. It's very easy to work on. There's not a lot here that would kind of deter people from working on this buggy. Pretty straightforward. Everything uses hex hardware, and yeah, everything's very easily accessible, with the exception of the servo and the ESC, which are inside this box. But everything is so clean. It's so neat. I think this is a dream for any beginner out there that hasn't really worked on a kit before. This one here is definitely one that you want to sort of wet your feet on, because it's just so cleanly laid out. It's very easy to work on. So for that reason, you know, maintenance, I'll give it a 5 out of 5 as well. Now let's look at part support, and this is where things get a little bit sketchy, because although Hobby King do list all the parts for this car, as of the time of this filming, I just checked it on their website, they have 2 pages of parts available for this particular buggy. They don't have the first page available as we speak, so I think they've got like maybe 3/4 of that page is available. The rest is all on back order. One of the problems with you know, getting something like this is that you may find yourself stuck for parts. However, as I mentioned earlier, somebody has pointed out that this is based off a Kyosho vehicle. I can't quite remember which one it is. I've had a few people leave comments, but to be honest, I cannot remember which one it is. Perhaps if you know, leave it in the comments down below, and I'll put it in the video description or something like that. But if you can find the equivalent from Kyosho, and Kyosho is available in your country, in your area, in your neighborhood, in your hobby shop, perhaps that will get you out of trouble until Hobby King get the original parts in stock. But that's the only letdown, and for that reason, part support is going to get a 2 out of 5. If Hobby King had a full inventory of parts available, ready to ship as of the time of this filming, my score would probably be a little bit different. But unfortunately, there's a lot of product there that's on back order, and you know, that leaves a bit of a question mark on whether or not people would jump on something like this and, you know, accidentally break a shock tower or something, and then go on the website and go, yep, Hobby King have got the part, and then find that it's on back order. So that's one thing that you really need to be mindful here, and yeah, that's why the score is only a 2 out of 5. Now moving on to value, and we're going to close this up as quickly as I can here. Value, as I said, the buggy is available from the Aussie warehouse at Hobby King for just under $200 plus shipping. I think that is exceptional value. Given the durability of the buggy, how quick it is, how cheap it is to run as well, only needing a 2S or a 3S pack, you know, I think that this offers exceptional value for a 1/8 scale buggy. It's durable, it's quick, it's fun to drive, could probably use with some better tires, but again, that also depends on the terrain that you're going to be running it on. As I said, on grass or some loose dirt, it actually does pretty well with these tires. It's when you go on road or some loose gravel where you might find traction's a little bit lacking. Also, another thing to note, which I haven't mentioned as of yet, is that this is not available as a ready to run. It's available as an almost ready to run, which means that you do need to buy at least a 2-channel radio. But radios are very cheap. I mean, you can buy a 2-channel radio nowadays, like from FlySky or something, for like $20 or $30. Perhaps you can even find them, you know, on eBay for cheaper, second-hand one. There's always people flogging off standard ready-to-run radios from their previous cars where they've upgraded into something else. So you might find a deal floating around out there somewhere. Otherwise, you know, $20 or $30, I think either from Hobby King, they've got some, they're fairly cheap, and that'll get you up and running. So, as I said, not an expensive car to run, definitely a very good scale, has good durability, decent speed, all up. Total score for this guy is a 27 out of a potential 35, which equates to a 77.14%, which is actually pretty good. I mean, it's just shy of an 8 out of 10. So you're looking at a 7.7 out of 10, roughly 7.5 to round it off. And that's actually pretty decent. I think that's very accurate to where I would put this car. It's done its job for the price that it is. It's good fun to drive. Without the slipper and the center diff, it definitely offers a different driving experience compared to a lot of the other cars out there that have slipper clutches and diffs. You will know the difference straight away. And you know, it has a very nice look to it, very unique look, a little bit retro as well, which I don't mind. So that's it for this review, guys. Hopefully this was helpful to you. If it was, please be sure to give the video a like. Don't forget to check out the video description for more information on the Rattler. And of course, check out my Facebook page as well, which of course will keep you a couple of steps ahead of what goes on here on YouTube. That is it from me. Thank you all very much for watching, and I will speak to you next time.